Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here for our second CAP meeting of 2024. I am not Dawn Ford. I'm Erin Gill. I'm the VP of Sustainability and Government Relations here at KUB. Dawn, if you recall from our last session, is not able to attend for our April meeting, and so I'm going to facilitate today, which I will try to fill her shoes and keep up, but she sends her regrets and appreciates your understanding. First order of business, can I have anyone who has reviewed the minutes? And is there the minutes were sent to you for review. Is there a motion to approve those or any correction of the minutes? I guess it's a correction of the minutes, not a motion to approve. But any corrections or comments on those? Okay. So thank you for being here this afternoon. We are joined today by several representatives from the Tennessee Valley Authority. They are going to lead us through a presentation and discussion related to their energy efficiency and demand response programs. These are programs that many of you have asked about at previous CAP meetings and in orientation, and we know that they're of great interest to you as well as some of the organizations that you work with. Monica Beckner, who is the Vice President of Energy Services and Programs at TVA, had intended to be here today. Unexpectedly, at the last minute, she had to stay home on account of a health issue, but we are in very good hands with Carrie Fogelman, who is the Director of Energy Services and Programs, as well as Ray Knotts, who is the Director of Demand Response and Support. So we also have from TVA, Travis Reed and Robbie Ansery, who is our local account rep with TVA and a good point of contact for us. So we're excited to host each of these folks today. TVA, as many of you know and heard about, is a key partner to KUB on a whole variety of initiatives, but in particular, they are the program designer and program implementer for many of our energy efficiency and demand response programs that then are implemented not only by KUB, but by local power companies across the valley. So their Energy Right program covers a wide range of opportunities for residential, commercial, and industrial customers, and those are offered again through KUB, but they are TVA programs. So TVA will share more information about their programs, their goals, and how these programs support an efficient, reliable, and affordable grid in communities like Knoxville. And they also have some questions designed to spark discussion amongst you as panel members for how your perspective can inform their efforts to reach more customers and make sure these programs can be successful at meeting their goals. So, Carrie Fogelman, as I mentioned, is Director of Energy Services and Programs and leads energy efficiency within TVA's Commercial Energy Solutions team. She has over 22 years of experience in the energy industry and has worked in a variety of functions at TVA, so very knowledgeable, and we're thrilled to have you here, Carrie. Ray Knotts is Director of Demand Management and Support and has also been at TVA for more than 20 years. So again, some good veteran leadership here, and has been part of teams in commercial energy solutions, economic development, and government relations. So excellent resources for us today, and I will turn it over to Ray and Carrie to lead us through the presentation this afternoon. All right.
Thank you for having us. Again, I'm Carrie Fogelman, and I wanted to kind of start with a little bit just about TVA and kind of get us grounded on who we are, and happy to take some questions along the way if you have any. So thank you for the introduction, Erin. Appreciate it. I'm actually new in role, so I should give you a little bit of grounding there. So I do have over 22 years at TVA, but I've only been in this role since November. And so this role is a new role where we brought together our energy efficiency for business and industry, as well as residential, all the different sectors together into this role over all of the energy efficiency programs to look for opportunities to make sure we're being as efficient as possible with our own resources and cross-promoting across different sectors and really trying to figure out how to meet our goals in the energy efficiency space. So that's a little bit about me, and before that, you know, I've mostly worked in operational groups at TVA as well as IT and is also enterprise planning. So I've been in a lot of different groups, but I may not know as many of you because I haven't done as much on the customer-facing side, but still very happy to be here today and to talk a lot about our what we're doing with energy efficiency and the big investment that we've got. So I'll start with, let's see, is that working?
Let's see.
There we go. There we go.
Easy.
IT experience should tell you to turn
It
off
should,
and turn
it should. I didn't see the button there.
on. Restart.
I shouldn't have mentioned I worked in IT at some point. All right, so the TVA region, we can comprise part of 7 different states, primarily the state of Tennessee, but also a large portion of Kentucky, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, a little bit of North Carolina and Virginia. And so just kind of to ground you as to what our region that we serve is. And our mission is to serve the people of the Tennessee Valley to make life better. And so that's why energy efficiency is so important to TVA, and really trying to make sure that we are making life better for the people of the Valley. And so a lot of people will say and ask questions about why are we doing energy efficiency, and it's actually selling less of your product, whatever. But the point is that we do this because we need to reduce the cost of power for the people in the Valley, because that's really what our mission is about. And every kilowatt hour saved helps us to grow and be able to serve industries and business that want to locate here as well. And so when we think about our mission, energy efficiency and everything that we're doing really fits directly into that mission. And that's some of the reason we want to come here today and talk to you about what else can we be doing and how else can we partner with you to grow this and to better serve our mission. And so we like to talk about the 3 E's, energy, environment, and economic development. And so we primarily, we are a provider of affordable, reliable power to the citizens of the Tennessee Valley. We're also a steward for the Valley's natural resources, and that's a big portion of our mission, and a partner for economic growth, trying to bring businesses and industry here to get good jobs for the citizens of the Valley. And so we partner to do this with 153 different local power companies to serve the 10 million people that live here in the region. And like I mentioned, of the 7 states, there's 700,000 businesses that are part of the 7-state region, and 57 of those are directly served by TVA as large industries and federal installations. And so these are the ones that we are partnering with to bring all of these programs to this area. So one of the things I wanted to kind of mention here is just that this transition from the past to where we are today. In the past, it's always been very much supply side. TVA controlled all of the generation, the nuclear, coal, combustion turbine, combined cycle, and we served our customers through through the supply side, and everybody was served this way. And the future is a lot of the demand side resources. And you're very familiar with this, but bringing in distributed generation, bringing in more energy efficiency and demand response, and it makes it a bi-directional environment, so that it doesn't always have to be supply side going out and serving the customers at the end of that distribution line, that we actually can have generation and different distributed generation and different energy services on the other side as well. It really helps us to better serve our customers and help us with resiliency and reliability across the entire service territory. So we're going to be spending most of today talking about the demand side of this equation. And just to give you a little bit of history here, TVA, I said I've been here over 20 years, so I remember those growth days of the early 2000s, right before the Great Recession. And we were very much in the same environment we're in today, where we were talking about how do we curb the growth with energy efficiency and demand response versus building new generation. And then the Great Recession hit, and a lot of that, we were still doing some things, TVA was still doing some things in that space, but a lot of those programs got cut back. And we saw a decade of flat load growth, where we just didn't see a lot of growth in the Valley. And so because of that, a lot of the things changed in terms of what we focused our energy on, focused our efforts on, I should say. And we focused a lot more on community programs. We focused a lot more on, really refining our own financials. And TVA did a lot in this period where we were not growing to make sure that we could be sustainable for the long term. And so post the pandemic in 2020, what we've seen is record load growth, and we have a forecast that we're going to see much more, which is what you see here with this green line. And so what the demand side portfolio is really set to do is to offset this by up to 30%, because we are currently in a build environment right now. We're building new generation to help this, but we can't really get the generation on fast enough, and really we should be doing our part to help the citizens of the valley, more importantly, to curb some of that growth with energy efficiency. We should be focused in on making sure that every kilowatt hour that is produced is going to the best use, and because of that, making sure that people are as efficient as they can be in their homes, in their businesses and industries is what we want to do, and we can do that. We can all do our part and prevent potentially building as much as we would need to build. And that just helps us all be more sustainable, reduce our carbon emissions. And so that's some of the areas where TVA is really focused in on, is curbing that growth and making sure that we focus in on what we can do to be the most efficient as we can be.
I have a question.
Yes.
What do you attribute the growth to? What was done different that you're seeing this growth, and why do you want to curb it?
So I would say a lot of the growth that we've seen came post-pandemic. There was a lot of insourcing of industry back into the United States and not so much going outside of the United States. So we did see a lot more of that. There was also just a desire to live in this portion of the country. We've got some of the lowest energy rates, but I think a lot of people, this whole work from home, people were, to these big cities in this nice part of the country where they could come here. I don't know if you've seen it yourself, but we've definitely seen folks from California and everywhere else kind of migrating here. So huge increase in residential as well as industrial loads as well. We've seen some of the greatest demand for more businesses and industries wanting to locate here in the Tennessee Valley. And then of course that brings additional residential growth as well. So we've seen all of that, and we want to be able to serve those industrial loads that come here because they bring nice high-paying jobs and better life for the people here in the Tennessee Valley. So we want to see that, but we want to be able to do it reliably without having to hurt the people who live here today. We don't want to increase the rates that, we don't want to have to do that to serve all this additional load. And so because of that, we're looking to figure out how do we help the people that live here today to be as most efficient as we can and help them reduce their energy burden.
It makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Could I follow up on that?
Yes.
How much of this new load is from cryptocurrency operations? I know that there are many of those moving into the area, and they're heavy users of electricity. Do you have a sense of how big that usage is?
I'll let Ray, do you know that?
I don't have a sense of the number across the entire Tennessee Valley.
I don't think anybody does.
However, I can address them a little bit more when I talk about some of our demand response programs in just a little bit. I'll weave that into that discussion because I do have a sense of how many are participating in those programs to curtail during peak times.
Did you want to take it from here?
Sure, I can do that. So a few things in this growth, we kind of decided to bucket our work and think about how we can really organize and communicate what we're working on. So I'm actually going to start in the middle and not on the edges. We had previous, when we saw that less growth period, we were still doing things like home uplift and other things like that trying to be sure that we were being responsible. Even though we weren't seeing the need for bulk energy efficiency across the system, we still wanted to support communities and those who needed help. And so those programs were ongoing during that time. We wanted to ensure we kept that as one of the pillars of our energy efficiency work. And so we've kind of said, okay, we're going to make that its own bucket, call it community energy efficiency, and ensure that we're servicing those needs and making sure that our commitments we've made in that space are maintained. Where you really see growth is really on that virtual power plant side, which is on the left-hand side. That's all that energy efficiency that as TVA goes in and demand response, as TVA plans for the future, we look out and say, okay, what's the least cost way to serve the valley and the most reliable way to serve the valley? That's what we have to do, and that's what our customers expect of us, right? To keep the lights on and keep the bills low and do it in the most responsible way we can. So our planning group looked at that and said, well, we really need an increase in energy efficiency and demand response to balance the system and balance all of those needs. So that's where that term virtual power plant comes from. It's not steel on the ground. It's the work we're doing in curbing peak load or curbing energy use throughout the year prevents us from needing to build that next incremental plant. That's the idea. So that's where the term virtual power plant comes from, balancing those needs and lowering costs. You can see some examples down there. We have through 2028 some goals that we've been putting forward, and it's coincidentally they're the same number, but 2,200 gigawatt hours saved, 2,200 megawatts of peak energy. That's a lot. When you think about like our peak day, 35,000 megawatts is kind of what you're talking about. The big numbers like that, and 2,000 is a lot to trim off that, because we can see situations of TVA needing 35,000 megawatts, and then sometimes at night we might need 15. Big difference in how we supply. But virtual power plant is what we're talking about to offset those potential power plants. On the far right, we've had a suite of programs around electric vehicles, that sort of thing, and we've kind of bucketed that into a clean energy services, an area we expect to grow as well. I want to dig into the programs a little more specifically, though. You want me to advance? Or?
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, sure.
Are these slides going to be made available to us? It'll save us having to take a lot of notes.
Yeah, that's fine.
You'll send
Yeah.
them shortly after the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I suppose they'll be on the public access anyway, so you could just take a picture off the TV. But yeah.
Well, I mean, I can sit here and take pictures of them, but I'd rather not. I'd like to know that they're just sent to us so we can have them.
We'll circulate them to the CAP. after
Yeah.
the meeting.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Before you all move on, could we go right back to that other slide?
Sure.
I was taking notes, and that's the way I remember things.
Sure. Oh, yeah, I've got the clicker here. There you go. Yeah, it is proven that writing helps you remember things for sure.
2,200 megawatts demand reduction. That's not additional, that is total including what you have now. Right?
That's correct.
What do you have now?
It depends on the season. In some seasons, it's 1,400, and other times it's a little over 1,500. It fluctuates based upon participants and how much load they have at the time and that sort of thing. So it's a significant amount more, and if we can get more, we'll attempt to get more. I'll touch on that when we hit demand response in just a moment.
And can you answer, I assume then the energy savings in gigawatt hours is also total, not additional?
That is primarily, mostly additional. So there is a small amount in there. I don't have those numbers handy, because we were already doing some home uplift and things like that, right?
Well, that's, okay,
It's
so.
additional beyond what we had
So
in
you're,
the past.
okay. The virtual power plant, my understanding is that home uplift is not part of the virtual power plant.
That's correct.
So
Home
you
uplift is
wouldn't have that in the 2,200.
Yeah, I doubt that is in there, and Carrie could maybe look at those numbers. but-
There is, of the virtual power plant, of that 2,000 gigawatt hours, that is the virtual power plant. There's another 200 or so gigawatt hours just for community energy efficiency, which would include the home uplift.
Okay, so are you saying the 2,000 and then the 200, or is it the 2,200 with the 200 from community being 2,400?
It's the 2,200.
So under the virtual power plant, you are actually adding in home uplift into that total number.
Say that again?
Yeah, the 2,200 is the full portfolio.
Yeah, the 2,200 is the full portfolio. It's just we list here the 2,000 that's on the virtual power plant, and then the 200, I'm not talking dollars here, 200 gigawatt hours is under the community energy efficiency for a total of the 2,200, which I think is on a future slide.
Okay, so we don't need to look at that column being just related to the virtual power plant. You're saying that's in total?
Yes.
Yeah, so when TVA is planning for how much energy, is coming off the system, it doesn't really matter what source it comes from when it's the amount of energy. The cost makes a difference, but it's the same amount of energy that's coming off of the system.
And like the 10 million tons of CO2, that is also comprehensive of the whole portfolio. So these are metrics that overarching for everything that's in our portfolio of programs. I wouldn't restrict it to just those specific pillars.
This is an important point, because in some of our conversations with some of your colleagues, the virtual power plant is a type of energy efficiency that you can kind of bank on so that you can actually put it into the load forecast in a way that you can, you're designing programs that you, through MMV, that you can basically count on. Whereas things in the uplift are less in that sort of ability to really count on. So the reason I'm asking that question is there are energy efficiency things that can be done that bring value to customers, but they may not bring as much value to you in your, long-term planning because they can't be sort of put into that virtual power plant. So that's what I'm trying to sort of tease apart and understand how you guys are looking at this and what's being aggregated and what's not, because when we advocate for certain energy efficiency programs, they may not fit cleanly in your virtual power plant, and our understanding is that that's where you guys are really leaning into because you want to be able to count it against load growth.
Yeah, let me try to bridge that gap before I
Yeah.
move to the next one. So there are things that are economic and cheaper than a power plant.
Right.
And that's where that virtual power plant part came in. There are things that we want to do to be responsible in the community. And that is also energy, though, that comes off the system.
Sure.
And that is M&V. We do EM&V on that as
Right.
well.
Okay.
So all of that is looked at and is considered part of the energy reduction. It just may be that some is done for economic reasons and to offset plants, and some is done to be responsible in the community. Is
But
that?
it all helps.
But it all helps.
Yes.
It all
No, sure,
reduces
yeah.
energy.
The greenest electron is the one you don't use. And so we're all for it. But I just know that when we've been talking about expenditures and sort of where you guys are prioritizing, it seems like this, I think there was several $1 billion that y'all are saying you're spending over the next few years. That tended to be all in the virtual power plant bucket, because the home uplift, as I understand, originally came out of some of the COVID funds that you released for the communities. And so it was an outstanding question about whether it's going to continue to be renewed going forward as the COVID funds sort of wind down. I guess you'll get into that here.
Yeah, we're going to get into the whole portfolio size and just in terms of spend
Yeah.
and that donut chart and
Okay,
things like that.
okay.
So that's coming up in just a couple.
All right, thank you.
I have a question to just piggyback, because from a layman's point of view, what is a virtual power plant? What comprises that?
Good question. Let's dig into that. So, yeah, we figured we might get that question. So when we're talking about our virtual power plant in this sense, we're talking about energy efficiency and demand response. So let's talk about the difference of those things. Energy efficiency is reducing, for instance, I'll give you a practical example, replacing a low efficiency heat pump with a high efficiency heat pump. And there's a savings then when you run that higher efficiency one all year long and you replace that lower efficiency one, there's a savings that's yielded, right? And that savings could be, can happen 24 hours, not 24 hours a day, but every hour that heat pump runs, you would see those kind of savings. So energy efficiency is kind of the savings that you get routinely across the day, all the time, okay? And there's a lot of other examples of energy efficiency, things that you can do that would also lower energy. Demand response is a little different. That is a program where TVA and the local power companies are tracking the highest, most difficult point of the year or points of the year to serve, those peaks. As I mentioned, we've seen it at 35,000. We've seen it, an average day could be 26,000. There's a huge variance in when everybody turns on their ovens or their factories or whatever. It can, on those coldest or hottest days, you can see a high peak. Demand response's job is you take that high peak and you clip it off. You ask folks to reduce for a moment, for that at a few hours, a period of time, and it keeps our reliability high during that time. But then they go back to their normal way of operating outside of those hours. So that's the difference. Energy efficiency, you kind of get that long-term savings and the hour over hour, day over day. And demand response is for those really challenging days. And so that's what we're calling a virtual power plant, that we can do those things. Yes, ma'am.
And they work very well together because energy efficiency definitely is focused in on helping consumers manage their energy costs, because it is a reduction for all of the hours. it actually helps, in a residential space, it helps you be more comfortable because you get rid of air leaks and now your home's not as drafty. There's a lot of benefits to energy efficiency for the consumer, and also for TVA because it's helping us at all hours. The demand response in particular, because it is not sustainable, it is just for that curb, it helps us with our capacity challenge. And if you've heard about TVA talking about, we've got a capacity challenge, that means that on those peak days like the Winter Storm Elliott that we had a year ago in December, those are those peak days when it's really, really cold, or potentially in the summer when it's really, really hot. That's when demand response is even more important to be able, yes, it does help to have energy efficient and have the most efficient heat pumps or AC units on those days. But that's where we lean on, industrial customers to say, can you help so that we can keep reliability strong for all of the citizens of the valley, so that we're not having to do different emergency measures.
So the residential side, when you have those peak demands, that's when you have those rolling blackouts?
That is not a program that we offer.
That's what I meant when I said emergency measure.
We're saving.
So I'll dig into demand response in just a minute too, and tell you what we've done and where we're going in that space, because there is, traditionally it has not been residentially focused in our area, but some of that's starting to change. So that's coming. But what happens, what we hope to do through energy efficiency, demand response, or additions to TVA's capacity, our fleet of generating, is so that we don't have those rolling blackout days, because that's certainly not a feature of the system.
Absolutely not.
I like that addition to capacity.
Yes, addition to capacity to avoid the emergency measures, for sure. We don't want to have to do that again.
But I won't read through all of these, but there are quite a number of benefits. We do this every day. We're huge supporters of this virtual power plant, energy efficiency, and demand response. And one of the things you look at it across all of them is they're typically a zero carbon offer. So it's as we heard just a minute ago, it's the cheapest and the greenest is the one that you don't have to supply. And that's a good analogy to bring up. But on the demand response side, when we're curbing those peaks, it helps us maintain the reliability of the system, as I talked about a minute ago. It helps us shape the load, increases the reliability. It saves customers money, participants. We pay some folks every month to be ready for us so that when we call on them, they curb their power. So it's really a win-win-win, because the end-use participant wins, they're getting benefits and financial benefits, and our system gets more reliable. On the energy efficiency side, we really think that utilities like KUB and TVA, we love that when we participate in that, it really builds trust out there in the market. I use the example all the time of everybody's favorite mechanic is that mechanic when you went and took your car in for servicing, and they said, well, yeah, you're hearing that little noise, but you really don't have to do anything about that. You don't have to spend that money. And it's like, oh, wow, I really trust you. That's great. Well, we want to be trusted in the community too, and sometimes the right answer is use less energy. We have a solution for you, even though that's less revenue for us. So we really think it helps us build trust in the communities. It helps us obviously manage our system, and helps consumers manage their end user, their home bill. I mean, there are folks that need their bill to be lowered to make ends meet.
I have a question for that.
Yes, ma'am.
So how do you change the infrastructure of the residents? And that's who I'm going to really be concentrated on. How do you get the buy-in? Because we're going to have to invest too for this infrastructure, for this VPP.
All right.
I think that's a good segue for some of our discussion, I think.
Give me 2 slides, and I'll talk about the programs that we have.
Okay.
And in 2 slides, I'll give some examples of what.
And keep in mind people's economic status.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. Okay, we talked about on that one slide we were talking about earlier that had the amount of gigawatt hours and all that sort of thing. What are we spending in this space, and how are we allocating dollars? I think that's one thing we wanted to get across in this virtual power plant. So the first thing to note, this is kind of a 5-year view, our fiscal year 2024 to 2028. And in that time, our plan has to spend $1.5 billion on the energy right portfolio of things. So that's not all virtual power plant, that's not all community energy, that's demand response, that's electric vehicles. The electric vehicle programs are on my team as well. I'll briefly speak about those in a little bit as well. So what are we doing in all of this energy program space? That's what we're pulling together in this $1.5 billion number. And so you can see on that kind of, on the donut, I'm gonna spend most of the time on that donut chart on the right, and if it's difficult for you to see, I'll describe it a little bit. The right-hand side in green, the larger piece there, you see $637 million for energy efficiency. That is most all of that number is growth, brand new energy efficiency, things we were not doing before. The preponderance of that is growth in this space. So Carrie's team has a lot of work to do to get all of that out to market and that sort of thing. Because as we mentioned, what we were doing before was smaller amounts in the community energy space. If you look to the left-hand side and you see the demand response portion of the circle, there's definitely growth there. You see 841 in that number. I'll just say we already had a portfolio, as was mentioned earlier, of 14 to 15 to 1600 megawatts, depending on the time, of demand response participants. So that is also in that number, in that spend. There's also growth in that space too that we need to accomplish, and I'll touch on what that growth looks like on the very next slide here. Then,
Is that 841 million, is that the reduction in electrical cost of the participants? Is that what that number is?
that is the payments to participants and the cost to implement the program. Then you see the smaller slice at the top, that's our clean energy services and EVs. There's a space there where we're looking at a lot of things. So we have EV programs, which I'll describe on the next slide as well. We're also evaluating some things in that space like customer resiliency and other things. So we've made it a broader category than just EVs because we think there's additional things we could consider in that space. Let's go to the next slide though, because I'm getting lots of questions about what the programs are and how they work. And so I'll walk through those next. So the ones on the left are on Carrie's team in the energy efficiency space. And I'll start with residential, and it's a good place to start since you were asking about them. We have a variety of ways that end users can participate in energy efficiency. And so for instance, we have rebates and financing. What that means is, if I replace a less efficient heat pump with a higher efficient heat pump, we can pay an incentive or a rebate back to that end user to make that more efficient choice. Or it can be financed as well, where there's ability to spread those costs out. We work with builders on new homes to ensure that they install higher efficient equipment than what's typical and what's standard. The third one down, we do home energy assessments and evaluations. Homeowners can do a do-it-yourself evaluation, or they can ask for a professional evaluation of their home to understand their energy efficiency opportunities and things that can be done to make their home efficient. And some of those things are things they don't have to pay for, they could do themselves. Then, of course, we've got what we talked about already, home uplift. That is where we do what we call deep retrofits for low-income homeowners or in low-income homes. And KUB is a tremendous partner in that space and is always looking for us to partner with them more and deeper in that space. And so that's a great program for us. And then you see home energy workshops. We can do workshops to help folks understand how to save energy. And because a lot of folks don't understand, energy is a complicated business and some folks don't understand it. So we can do workshops to help them understand the potential savings in their home and where the most energy use is. So a host of things we can do in the residential space. On the business and industry side, we've got a number of things we do there as well. You see energy efficiency incentives, similar to the home. The businesses can say, oh, if I can do the next most efficient thing, I normally wouldn't go that next most efficient thing because it costs too much to make that next leap. Well, we can provide assistance to get them to that more efficient choice. Strategic energy management, a lot of folks don't know what that is. That is where we bring together businesses of similar types, and we go through, basically we call it a cohort, and they come together and we train them, use best practices. They share best practices, and ultimately, they end up saving nearly 10% of energy when they participate in one of our cohorts. Keep going down the list. We work with federal entities through our Federal Energy Services Program. Great partnership we have with the federal government there to help federal entities implement their efficiency plans. We can do industrial energy assessments. So if you all know of larger industries, we can do assessments and go in there, that plant with experts with them to understand their opportunities, just similar to the home assessments that I mentioned for homeowners a little while ago. School Uplift is kind of that companion to Home Uplift, where we work with schools to increase their energy efficiency, help them understand how to keep their students more comfortable, help those boards of education, those localities save money on energy bills. And then Small Business Uplift, similar to Home Uplift, we can partner with a limited number of small businesses and help them do energy efficiency upgrades as well. That's kind of the energy efficiency bucket on the left-hand side. Demand response, actually I have some stuff that it's not even on the slide yet, that's happening like literally right now, new things we have going. The first one you see there, it's titled Interruptible Power. We actually have a new program rolling out right now that's going to replace that. Interruptible Power is a very large program we have with some of the largest industries. So let me talk about this real quickly. Our traditional approach in demand response has been partnering with large industry. And for years and years, TVA's had great participation and excellent results working with those entities. But as we need to meet these virtual power plant goals, we need to broaden who we're working with. And that's very important to us. But we also want to keep working with this sector and being sure they can contribute more. So we're rolling out right now in a series of webinars an update to this interruptible power. It's being renamed PowerFlex. Let me know if you like the name or not. But that's happening in just right now in real time. And we're hoping to offer a lot more flexibility out there to end users as long as they can provide more demand response or flexibility back to TVA as well. So it's a nice exchange of value there. Peak Power Partners, you can think of that. Next one down is working with smaller commercial entities where we have around 1,200 small community entities or small businesses that participate in demand response. We have hundreds of schools enrolled in that. That's another, beyond School Uplift, we have hundreds of schools in our Peak Power Partners program, helping save money for their schools and also helping our system. Voltage optimization, we work closely with LPCs. We work to manage those voltage levels. It gets a little wonky. I'm not going to dig into that because that's probably a hard topic to talk about in this type of session, but working to have operational efficiencies across the LPC systems that can be brought up for system value. We're rolling out new things in that space now. And then I want to end on demand response and talk about something that we're launching, in the midst of launching right now, and KUB showed great leadership with us in this space. And that is a pilot that we've had on bring your own thermostat. So what that means is all those smart thermostats, Nest, Honeywell, those sorts of things, end users, those providers have programs and services where if the homeowner wants to participate in this, they can choose to say, on that coldest day, on that hottest day, we can the thermostat can actually change a few degrees, and they get paid for that. Nobody's forced into it. Folks can choose to be in that and choose not to be in that. We will never take over. We can't take over your thermostat, y'all. So don't think there's some way that we have to do that. It would be that homeowner allows access to that and gets paid. And so we piloted this with KUB. Our first thermostat program was right here in Knoxville, and our first and only to this point. And we learned a lot of lessons working with a thermostat provider and doing installs. And those lessons learned are now turning into something we're putting together right now for launch in the coming months so that we can bring that to market and folks can enroll their thermostats in demand response if they so choose. The last bucket there, clean energy services and electric vehicles. I'll talk about, I'm very passionate. I'm a 2 electric vehicle household at my home, and have been a long-time EV driver. And first of all, if you don't have an EV, they're fantastic. And not everybody can have one. But I bought both of mine used. And we want to make those, we don't want to force anybody into any decision. Some folks are going to want to drive gas cars for a number of years, and that's great. We also want to make the electrification of transportation feasible for folks who want to do that. So we've got this thing called the Fast Charge Network, where we're partnering with local power companies to have charging in place every 50 miles on not just the interstates, not just in the urban areas, but connecting all of our rural communities across our entire, that map Carrie showed earlier, the entire Tennessee Valley. We're making great progress. We just had our 50th charger installed the other day, and this is going to be a very busy year for our Fast Charge Network program. and getting chargers. Lots of contracts and lots of projects getting ready to come off the ground and have the chargers put in place. We've been doing a lot in consumer awareness in the EV space. And then lastly on here, we do have incentives available for what's called efficient electrification, meaning if you can electrify in ways that don't add to our peak, where some of the examples that we use are a cooling system that makes ice at night and then uses that ice to offset the electricity needed to cool the building during the day. Or vice versa. You could heat something that then takes heat off of it and shaves that peak. There are times where that might take more energy or more electricity, but if it's deployed correctly in the right times, it's efficient for our system. So there's a host of things in that space. We're also looking in that clean energy services space at some backup generator, those types of programs where folks could invest in those. Okay, I just threw a ton at you all. Yeah, I knew there'd be questions after all that.
No, this is great. I have two questions. First, it looks like, as I was sort of clicking down through here, just about everything's here is also on this sheet, and so they track pretty closely, it looks like. So thanks for doing that. And then I see the QR code here where you can do a deeper dive on specific programs and stuff like that. And this, I guess this is dated August 23, so this is the latest and greatest. Y'all anticipating updating this?
Travis, is that?
Yeah, so the one you're looking at is actually we made these for the LPCs, but we thought this would be good for you guys to sort of show you guys what our full portfolio looks like. Because typically our marketing material is going to be like for a homeowner or for a business person.
Sure.
But we're actually working on like a public-facing one that we'll probably have coming out.
Okay.
It'll be more concise, because right here it looks like we've got like 30 programs, and your average user doesn't want to have to choose from
No,
30.
I understand that, but I'm happy you have the comprehensive thing in one
Yeah.
thing. That's helpful for us.
But you'll see it's like some of the language is targeted at LPCs. You'll see one of the columns, but
Yeah. Second question, I get the demand response targeting the industrial customer. What research have you done on, there's a handful of LPCs that I think are piloting demand response for residential and sending market signals and setting up voluntary programs where people can sign in. I'm participating in the one with KUB. Where are you in thinking about going after that segment? I mean, I know there are companies out there like, it used to be called Internoc, they've been come in and they aggregate demand in some ways, but in the not too distant past, some of the conversation we had with some of your colleagues was, these are too complicated, customers can't figure them out or whatever. I'm not sure that that's totally the case, and it probably depends on how it's communicated, and there's probably a learning curve to be able to do that. And obviously y'all have a very large residential pool that could become more of a contributing factor in the demand response. And so where is y'all's current thinking on that, and how many of the LPCs actually have these demand response pilots, and what is the information being fed up to you guys? I don't know what the dialogue is between KUB and them, and I'm not even sure how much KUB's even. I mean, obviously they're tracking because I get the bill, but I'm wondering how much of that is then being rolled up, evaluated, and then figured out. Because giving the incentives to the industrial customers, the only incentive I got was the lower rates. I mean, and I don't know whether there's other ways to incentivize people to start looking at, using batteries at home and other things like that can begin to, start to get on that demand side and get in the distribution network. Where are you guys on that?
I'm going to give Ray a second to offer. I'm going to let everyone think of, kind of clarifying questions that'll inform discussion. I think to some of your points, we are going to have some discussion amongst, if you've participated in these programs, what has your experience been? So I want to make sure that we also, before we get too deep into some of these experience perspectives, that we also give our panelists a chance to ask any clarifying questions. So sorry to interrupt. If you want to respond to Dr. Smith.
Yeah, I can untease several of that. So first of all, if I miss one, please let me know. But we still partner with Internet. They're called NL now, and that's what we call our peak power partners there. And let me tell you why it's not called NL or Internet, because we have an idea that we could do some more aggregation in the future. And so partnering with folks who can aggregate larger portfolios of demand response is something we're interested in. And so, yeah, we are, that's not an old thing, that's actually a current thing. We still work with them very closely, and they're a good partner. Okay. Regarding LPC demand response, so first of all, there's system-level demand response that we do because of what we see macro across the entire Tennessee Valley.
Right.
There are things that the LPCs might do for their own purposes and their own cost savings in their market, and they are not required to feed that back up to us. But we do think that there are opportunities to find what some of their best practices are and scale those up. And if we can make it a compelling offer, we can organize all of that into a larger, more unified thing. Yeah. So where we are is, and I think you actually said it pretty well, our past has been mostly on the industrial side because you could go work with 100 participants and get lots and lots of megawatts. Right. And I don't think the future is going to be as simple as that. Right. And so, in the market depth, if we want to do more and more, you've got to open those markets up. So we're definitely interested in the residential market. That's why we're starting with the smart thermostats, because that's pretty ubiquitous technology. I'll give you an example. There are 700 to 900,000 smart thermostats already on walls in the valley, just to give you a sense of scale. And so we want to start with that because it's ubiquitous and out there. There may be other opportunities that we want to pursue as well, but I'm just kind of, you hit that low-hanging fruit first, and the biggest markets you can hit, and then you keep digging, and voltage work could really be on the residential side quite a bit. So there's, I agree, we need to grow our markets, and there are things that LPCs are learning because they're working on things in their market that we haven't learned yet, and we're open to partnering with them too.
Okay.
I think I saw a question here, Dr. Knoll.
I'd like to return to the question I asked earlier.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm very concerned about the influx of these cryptocurrency mines into Tennessee.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think what you guys are doing here is mostly great. I mean, I'm not here to complain about TVA or anything else, but I am here to, as a citizen, to try to understand the big picture, because it seems to me if you have a bunch of these crypto mines coming in and they're using a whole lot of power, you guys are going to have to, at some point, build more generating power, and that's going to cost everybody, and I'm worried about that. So I'd like to get, what I'm trying to do is, as much as possible, get information about how big the problem is and how you all are interacting with these folks to the extent that we can learn that in ways that might incentivize things that are going to hurt us all in the long run.
Yeah, so let's talk about a few things there, and thank you for bringing that back to me. So TVA is not actively out recruiting cryptocurrency and Bitcoin miners and things of that nature. They are not one of our target markets, and that's not what we do anyway. We're not in the industrial or any kind of recruitment. We're in the efficiency and load management type of thing. So there are cryptos coming because we have low rates, and that's a fact. And there could be things that other parts of TVA decide to do to manage that. Our job is, once they are here and once we know they're in the valley, can we make them as efficient as possible, and can they contribute to like peak load management? And so the only thing I can definitively tell you about crypto, I don't know how many exist in our footprint or how many megawatts they use. What I can tell you is that we have a good number who have enrolled in our demand response programs once they've gotten here. And then there is a good side that they are highly flexible in us being able to interrupt their load when we ask. So that is the upside. So I think you've said there could be some potential downsides possibly. There is an upside that a lot of them choose to participate in these programs, and when we call on them, they bring their power down to what we need on those peak days. So that's the upshot. I hear your concern, and that is something I think that a lot of utilities and localities are wrestling with. But what we want to do is, once they're here, see if they can contribute to our reliability and efficiency.
So let me be clear on how they contribute. Is it with the interruptible power or the peak power partners?
The interruptible power.
Interruptible power.
Mm-hmm.
And under that arrangement, then you all would pay them for not generating not using electricity, is that right?
That's right.
So they're actually receiving benefits from TVA.
They are, but we didn't recruit them to come here
Yeah,
with that
I
program.
understand
or is
that.
Once
I
they're
understand
here,
that.
we want to be sure that we can manage loads that do exist here.
The thing is, as
Yeah.
a citizen, and as a person who wants to see Tennessee have really, intelligent and beneficial results from this, those places don't employ much, they don't do much
Yeah.
for the local economy. And if they're being paid to not use electricity, that, I think, is a problem, because that, even though it's not recruiting, it's giving them an incentive to locate here.
Yeah, so I think we need to tease that apart, and this will probably be my last point on that, is that TVA is not going out and providing them economic development incentives. We're not rolling out the red carpet for them to come, but once they're here, they contribute to the energy need. Once they are already set up shop, they are contributing to that peak load. And at that point, it's actually most responsible for us to manage that for the benefit of the whole valley. Because if we don't, then there's all those megawatts are getting us closer to a less reliable system.
Yeah,
And so that is a
understand.
challenge. I hear what you're saying, because that is a difficult challenge, but having them not in load management programs is actually, in our estimation, worse once they're here.
I would agree with that. Once
Okay.
they're here, you got to have, make the best of it. But again, my concern is there's something in this system that's creating incentives that are not going to work for Tennessee in the long run. And
Yeah.
I wanted to make that point, and I think maybe there's nothing you guys can do about it. Maybe we have to go to the legislature and make that point. But we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot here if we keep doing this, I think, and that's a big.
It is a
worry.
growing market, for sure.
Ray, how many, you mentioned earlier that you actually had a number. How many are actually participating in the
Yeah.
interruptible?
Yeah, I have almost 20,
20.
almost, not quite 20.
I think I saw a question maybe on this side.
Is this a true statement, more for KUB? Don't they also negotiate a discounted rate to run at night through KUB before anything to do with TVA or, any of those savings?
I was gonna say, I'm gonna defer to Ms. Martin over here, but she's shaking her head.
They participate in the interruptible program, which does create a different rate structure for them.
So it's not a double incentive?
It's not a double incentive.
Other clarifying questions based on the presentation or some of the additional information on the handout? Yep, Tiki.
Question. The laundry list, all the programs, everything you're doing, my mind jumps to a different box. What's working and what's not working? We can have all these programs, but they look good when you see this, but what's working and what's not working? That's a big question, but just what's working?
Well, I'm gonna build on this because I think we want to talk about what's working from a customer perspective. That's where we
Okay.
want to go with this discussion. Do you want to offer any insight in terms of actual savings and technical impact? Is that where your head
Yeah.
is on that question? Do you want to, can you offer
So,
anything?
I would say we've been out of the market for a little while, right? So I talked about the flat load growth period, and we haven't really been offering rebates and incentives since, for the last 5 years, and we started back in October. So the data I have is more recent in terms of what's working really that we've seen since October. And we are struggling to get some uptick in the market, which is one of our questions for you guys, is how can we partner with you to really help get the word out that we're back? We're offering rebates and incentives, and we need people to know about them. But the things that we've seen working so far, we're still very successful in our community programs because we never got out of that market. And it's, really good success still with Home Uplift. We've already done over 500 homes just this fiscal year since October. Really successful with School Uplift. We've seen a lot more interest with the schools where they want to come and partner and get grants for their schools, and the Small Business Uplift as well. So we've seen a lot in the community programs. We've also seen really good uptick so far of our do-it-yourself kits. And so this is an opportunity where we're able to plug those in through our home energy workshops as well, and get people to come and do the home energy assessments and then get the kit. We've got an opportunity where they get this kit in the mail. It's got a little bit of a home improvement gift card. And so we've seen people learning about energy efficiency through that. And so I feel like from a goal standpoint, we'll probably hit our goals in terms of those, energy assessments and those kits out of the gate. I think we're struggling a little bit more on how to reach some of the businesses and industry and get them focused in on some of the opportunities that we're providing. So we're looking to figure out where we can partner to get that, as well as just making sure that we're making sure that people know about what is available. The financing is a big thing, right? So you mentioned that not everybody can take advantage of this because of the income. And so we really want to promote our on-bill financing and opportunities that if you do reduce and do some of these measures, you can finance it on your bill. And so those are some of the things we want people to know that's available. And I'll also mention, we are currently working with the state of Tennessee and also partnering with many other states to try to go after some of the federal funding that has been made available under the Biden-Harris administration to, the Inflation Reduction Act and some of the job acts and even the EPA stuff with the carbon pollution reduction grants. We are actively going after everything we possibly can to be able to help increase our incentives and rebates so that we can really help some of these markets as well. And so I think that we're going to see a lot of opportunity if we're successful getting all of those funds to the Valley.
I'll add in just real quickly. She was addressing a lot of the energy efficiency, what's working well. In demand response space, our industrial demand response has worked extremely well, and they perform tremendously for us when we ask them to. They perform at higher level, at very, very high levels, above 100% for us on a regular basis. I can explain that some other, if you want to hear about how something goes over 100%, I can tell you about it later, but they can. And so they do very, very well for us, and our smaller demand response does very well for us too. So that portfolio has been very effective for a long time. Now we got to see if we can't grow it in these other markets and hit these other markets to make it larger. And so we'll see how that goes, but we're kind of in our infancy there. But that portfolio is very strong and works very well.
I would just ask that somewhere in this presentation, maybe put some metrics in there to let us see it, to see what you're talking about, because you've been in these programs, you have a list of them, but to see something that is really working, to see the metrics, what you use against that, to say this is working, it's not working, what adjustments we have to make. I didn't see that, so that's me thinking that way.
I saw a question over.
Yeah, I'm just curious. So we've got TVA who's offering, incentives, programs, resources, and then KUB in its own right that is doing the same with its consumers. And just curious how the two are working interdependently and in tandem to, it's a lot between what you all have to offer, what KUB is offering throughout. So to offer this entire slate of again, resources to consumers and, for everyone to absorb it and know what is going to be most beneficial for them individually, either from a commercial perspective or a residential perspective.
So I'll answer briefly to say a lot of our work is to amplify and highlight the availability of these TVA programs. One notable exception that I'll call out, and then maybe Tiffany, you may have others, but with our low-income programming, that is a place where not only do we support the Home Uplift, which is a TVA-based program, but we also simultaneously continue to support the local implementation of weatherization through the CAC, which is a separate but very similar program. And what's nice about that is that the CAC provides additional services to homes that may otherwise not be ready to receive weatherization benefits. And so for a family who, for example, may need a roof repaired before they would see any benefit from an energy efficiency upgrade, CAC has avenues where they can provide that support above and beyond what maybe the TVA program could offer if it were to stand alone. So that's one example. Chastity Hobby is here, and then also Tiffany Martin. Are there other programs that you want to highlight that would talk about how these points intersect?
I'll just chime in briefly. I think that the Rounded Up and the Home Uplift programs are a really great example of how we work together and try to, identify those opportunities for co-benefits. But really, it is through TVA that we are able to offer a lot of these programs for our customers, and just, the support and the administration that they provide to help LPCs facilitate that and make sure that they're as beneficial as they can be, that we're representing our customer needs, and that we're looking at it from really an access and education standpoint. What can we do on our end to make sure that KUB customers are aware of these tools and that they have the ability to access them and leverage them? So I think that's a really key piece of how we work together to get the greatest benefit as possible for the Valley.
Do you mind if I build on that, Chastity?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is a cooperative effort. So what our idea is that we can build up something that if everybody built their own system, their own tracking systems, their own contractor networks, all their own things, all 153 LPCs did that, it'd be more expensive in every community for folks to do that. So what we look at is we try to listen to what our customers want. And so Chastity is one of our great participants on a advisory committee that we have of our customers, who tells us about our energy programs and how they need to operate, how we need to build them. And she's there every time providing us feedback. And so we view this as a partnership. We provide scale, some consistency across the market, but then the local power company knows their community, owns those customer relationships, and then we kind of sync up right there. And we want to do it together. So when you see TVA Energy Right or Energy Right as our suite of programs, we view that as a co-branded opportunity. Every chance we can, we love to see TVA's logo and KUB's logo, or TVA's logo and another LPC's logo. We want to have a united front in front of, because we each have a role to play. And so we think that's a great model. It works well, and we appreciate the partnership, because they feed it in and then they take what we have to go to market. And if they don't like what we have, they won't take it to market. And so we really appreciate that partnership and the ability to work together.
And we've gone through that exercise, and I think Chastity led it with KUB. We went through that exercise, so it's good to hear that there's a liaison between the two. Good.
So we didn't introduce ourselves this time, but I had mentioned to TVA that what's great about this panel is that we have representatives from the residential market, the commercial market, and the industrial market. So one of the things we wanted to make sure we had some time to discuss is to get perspective both from those of you who have participated or those who haven't, to inform the future rollout and how we talk about these programs. So TVA, you want to lead us through some of these discussion questions? And again, this is a chance for those of you who have been part of these programs in the past to share some of your experiences and perspective. And again, it's great because we have representatives from all different sectors who have perspective on this.
Yeah, I'll just open it up. I know I've seen several of your all's faces on the big screen on videos that we've done for some of our different programs. Would love just to hear from you guys, like if you all have participated in a program, what went well, what was that experience like? And then we can talk more about like how do we get the word out more about these things. But we'd just love to hear your all's experience with our programs. Awesome.
My name is Kira Wyatt. I'm the executive director for Connect Ministries. And a young man by the name of Mr. Dexter Davidson was riding through Burlington. And if you are familiar with East Knoxville, Burlington is the heart of East Knoxville. And he knocked on my door and he says, Ms. Wyatt? I said, yes. He said, would you be interested in upgrading your heating system and your cooling system? I'm like, and lights and windows if necessary? I'm like, what's the catch? He said, there's no catch. Now, I've turned this phone off. I have turned this phone off 3 times. And I'll tell my son I'll call him back. But I'm telling you, I have done it. So it has a mind of its own. I'm trying to be compliant. But when he came through, he said, it's no catch. He said, we've just been going around the East Knoxville area, and we are identifying businesses and nonprofits that are actually making a difference in the community. So we were chosen. And let me tell you how important it was. I'm going to tell you a little backstory. We had just moved into that building, that facility, right before COVID hit. we had $538 in the bank. And we have always been a nonprofit organization that basically had volunteers, and we're faith walkers. We are Christians, and we believe that God provides, and He has. We've been around since 2006. We were in a building in 2008. Fast forward, we come into this building not knowing how we were going to make it. And we got a partnership with Innovate Manufacturing through Knox County. And so we actually started up an industry. So in that first year, we went from like $538 in the bank to $249,000. And then the next year, we did the economic growth, and we did over $1 million. And then the next year, over $1 million. This year, we lost that partnership. However, there are other opportunities. Now, how that ties back into TVA, we were able to use the leverage of the exposure that we got from KUB and TVA that got the people's attention from the county to look at us. And so when they came, they were like, okay, you all are really trying to do some things. So where we're located in Burlington, there are 3 businesses, nonprofits. We have New Directions, we have Connect, and we also have the Crutcher Memorial Youth Enrichment Center. Well, we caucused and canvassed and advocated, and you guys did all 3. Now, all of us were struggling financially. And because of what you did, it put us on the map, all of us on the map. You all took a heavy, heavy load off of us. Now, we're in old buildings that were built in the 60s, and we still, and I'm putting the plug in here today, we still have some plumbing issues because of the iron. And those are significant costs that we did not have to bear on. So we were able to use our resources to actually help the people. My son was a recipient of the Uplift program. He got new windows and new doors, and it was him on the phone. So what he needs now is a new roof because the house is over 60 years old, and he definitely needs to get a new roof so it will still bring down his electrical and whatever his current energy needs are. But I would just like to say publicly, what you guys are doing in our community, we're doing a lot of work in the East Knoxville area, and you'll hear more about the Lighthouse, a command center to help the homeless people, and a one-stop shop where you will have people able to get medical, dental, and mental health services, that we will have a facility there, that we will also continue with our food pantry. As a matter of fact, I had spoken to Ms. Tiffany about you guys partnering with us in May, as you all have done in the years past, to be volunteers. So I'm just saying, TVA and KUB, you're making a difference in our community, and I brag about you every time, and it was an honor and a privilege to be chosen to serve on this community board. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I know there's some other folks who have participated in various ways that, you know, these program names might sound familiar. Does anyone else who's gone through a program want to share or talk about it?
I work for San Cristobal. My name is Claudia Mata, and I was the one that helped introduce the program, the Uplift program, to the Hispanic community in the Tennessee Valley. We uplifted 20 homes. We changed the HVAC units, water heaters, and everybody up to this day, they are so happy. They are tremendously thankful for the program that you created, and it was a great experience. I went through since like telling them what TVA was. TVA creates the electricity, and KUE brings it to your home. So it was like kids drawing when I was talking to the clients, but everybody is like really happy, saving money every month. And I was there to do the inspection. It was a great opportunity to get connected to the community, like really creating those connections with something that is so huge. Like, I don't know how to express properly, but for example, one of the houses, we were there to do the inspection, And they were so worried, and they were doing weird stuff, the inspector. And he's like, they need to leave right now. The CO2 is extremely high. They need to leave. They were changing everything the next day when they were supposed to wait like a couple of weeks for their time. So they did the whole renovation or work in few hours because the people was in danger breathing CO2. So there's nothing more than amazing. And I was one of the, I got the house what I was renting. It was uplifted, and it was amazing. I was saving. I don't live there anymore, but I have the chance now that I'm a homeowner. I can uplift my house, even if I had the rent uplifted. So I just have great comments about TVA and KUB. Thank you, and it's an honor to be here too.
And may I also say, your contractors were magnificent. They were very professional and very accommodating. So I just want to let you guys know that you all have just done an outstanding job of selection of the people who are coming into our homes and our businesses. Thank you.
That's great to hear. Yeah, we do our best to vet these contractors so that people that do want to use our rebates or incentives, not just through the home uplift, but even folks that just want to do the work through a quality contractor, that they're vetted, and that you know that KUB and these contractors, that they will come back and ensure the work was done correctly.
I'll give a comment from the business side. At the University of Tennessee, we did a lot of LED lighting upgrades from the previous Energy Right program, received well over $200,000 in rebates from that, and that LED lighting we put in, we were able to have a payback of less than a year on that. And just a little side story on that, one of our parking garages we did, KUB was so, I'll use the word impressed by that savings, they actually replaced the meter twice, thinking it was incorrect. It was a very, very good program.
How about demand response? I know a couple industrial customers in particular. Do you have perspective on the demand response programs?
Yeah, my name is Ty Hall. I'm the Director of Operations for CMC still in Tennessee. I guess my first comment would be hats off to TVA for the response in the past 2 years. Vastly different response from a customer with Elliott versus what happened this year. So the work y'all put in, we definitely appreciated that. It was an easier go this time than when Elliott hit. From internet response to emails to text messages to notification communication, I think all were better. I mean, we can get into a lot of things about demand response and how we can help. I think just from our needs and what we've seen here in Tennessee, rates are fairly stable, which we appreciate from a business, especially when we have multiple locations throughout the U.S. You know, we can leverage and flex as a company. So knowing what we have here from a cost perspective is good. We have good quality, stable power as well. And I think moving forward, that's what TVA is going to have to maintain to be competitive. And we've talked about that. One of the notes, at least, you mentioned feedback or how to get more people involved. You have a little bit of a issue with newer programs and the cost of bringing power to market. Those are big challenges, and I think if you have good mechanisms for feedback on the interruptible designs, there's a lot of different avenues out there that different states flex, or different, I shouldn't say states, but TVA, I always think of Tennessee, but the different power providers have. So there's a lot of different ways to flex. So I think a good feedback session, more people may get involved.
How about others? I know you were mentioning several earlier that you participated in. Are there other folks from either a business or commercial, industrial perspective that want to chime in? Do you want to take to go?
Small
Yeah.
business perspective, as a representative of Clark County Council, local small business. We participated in the previous Energy Right all LED lighting, and just recently upgraded all of our HVAC equipment for some beneficial savings. But I'm actually the Union County, Tennessee representative, which everything south of Norris Lake is on KUB power. And hearing these two ladies' stories today has hit me that I my reason for being here that I just found out 10 minutes ago is I need to be a better steward in my community to see that those less fortunate can take advantage of those type of programs. So if somebody from KUB can maybe ease me, I know how to find the people in my community, but maybe just give me a 1, 2, 3 of when I engage with them, this is the best process for them to take advantage of those things.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's a great, were you gonna say something, Chastity?
I was just going to say, we would be happy to connect, and I think we've got some resources that we can provide to the entire panel. For Union County specifically, that was one of the areas where in the past year we did an outreach campaign, and Dr. Smith was part of that. But just, talking about what are some effective ways to reach different customer groups and how can we better get the word out, we'd appreciate perspective and support there as well.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I was going. My next question is, like, Claudia, I know you helped us reach the Spanish-speaking community, which we realized was a barrier that, everything was written in English, and we needed that, and we've actually looked at a couple different languages for the Uplift programs. But what other ideas, you all are the heartbeat of your all's communities. How can we reach more folks? As Carrie was mentioning, sounds like you all heard about the programs in the past and participated in lighting, but how can we get the word out to get more engagement in this program? So that's something that we'd really love to hear what thoughts and ideas you have on that and how we can partner with you guys on that.
So one thing is brochures, because we are a hands-on networking resource center, and if we could get that out, that would be wonderful, because we do have a partnership with Knox County where we're trying to keep people in their homes. And because this program doesn't require that you own the house, that is, as long as you have the permission from the landlord that you can have this done, I think that would be huge for our population. And if we had the brochures, people are not going to go online necessarily. And it's user-friendly, that they can apply online if they can, just take the process at their own pace. We would be more than happy to make sure that they get that, especially when we do food pantries. When we are looking at the partnership with KUB coming in May, that we hope to be able to put that information in each one of those packets.
For us, what has helped a lot, we have the brochures in Spanish, and every people that comes through our doors, we try to talk to them, to have a conversation and assess their needs. And when we know they are homeowners, even if they are tenants, we talk to them about the situations they can get better, improve in their homes, and we share the flyer. And this is the website and I show them my picture, and I say, you have to go through here. But I think that is really good when you connect with your clients or the people that visit your organization. Talk to them like, oh, this is great, but they have to know that you trust in that program. Because if you just hand them the flyer, I don't think it will work as good as if you tell them like your experience. Oh, and I went through this, and just visit this website. And I don't know how many have applied, but we give them the information and the, how do you say, I don't know how to say in English, like we tell them this is safe. You don't have to go through, they trust, the trust, yes. Thank you.
Actually, I just want to add to what she just said about, like, every time we see these ads about the programs, not only TVA or KUB, we think this is a scam. It's too good to be real. So I think part of the marketing for these programs to advertise this with local community leaders, you guys, I don't know how much budget you have to spend in this program, and if you really want to spend it all in 1 year, I don't know. But that maybe will help my friend Kara and like the Hispanic community, to give them some granted to advertise for your program for their community. So it's like, I'm a business owner and a non-profit president. So if I have budget, I want to spend it, I will get more advertised, and I know how to spend it in 1 month. If I really have a small budget and I want the program to stay there, I will spend less money in advertising it. But I really I love what I'm hearing. It's just make me proud to be here. In the same times, I think local community leaders if you really want to get your program out, these people has to advertise for it, even if you partner with them with like a professional video, a professional interview, so that way they can give you more. If I see them in a Facebook ad, I will believe it. But if I see someone who just telling me to come and get the free stuff, the first things I'm gonna ask, what is the catch? So I think this part of the marketing we can do for you guys in our local community.
We would absolutely love that. We would love some, partnerships with community leaders to help tell the story. And then we can offer things like the home workshops and things like that. So one of the things we really like with our home workshops, and we do it actually with high school kids and younger students as well, is we can come in and we can teach about energy use and energy savings, and then they get to walk away, the adults get to walk away with little things like some caulk that they can go home to seal their air leaks, and some of the children get to walk home with things that are meaningful to them and that they get excited about. And so we can come in and, love to do promo videos, but also, come into your community centers and stuff and do workshops and help teach, and I'm sure partnerships with KUB could do some of that as well. So.
We have time for a few more points of order. I want to be respectful of folks' time, but Claudia?
I would just make a comment. Do we have time?
Yeah, please.
When I was doing the TVA program, we went to the Oak Ridge Children Museum, and I was so amazed the way they explained how everything worked, like the energy and everything. And that was without knowing the way I was explaining our clients, TVA creates the light, and then KUB bring it to your house. So it was really amazing for me, relate what I was saying and what they have at the Oak Ridge Museum. So having there, or I don't know, it's just like a suggestion, like have them have like your brochures. I don't know if it's possible, but I think it's really connected, and it will be amazing to have their children to know, here's something for your house to bring with you guys, or a way to promote the program.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a good suggestion. And we have our School Uplift program, which we're actively recruiting for cohorts for the next school year. So do go back to your communities and talk about joining our School Uplift program. So what that does is we will go into the schools and we partner with the students. We have to get a teacher and everybody on board with this. And they get a $10,000 grant that they can use in their school, whether it be for energy efficiency or even for building a STEM center or whatever they want to do with that $10,000. And then we have an energy coach who will come in and teach the students about how they use power. And then they get to spend the entire year, learning about it, going around their school, looking for energy savings. And then they get to take that home, right? And they get to teach their parents about energy savings in their own homes. And usually we target about 100 or so per year, and we're not quite at that number yet, so please help us recruit for more schools for next year. But one of the things we will do is we have 6 recipients who get a much larger grant. And so they apply for this grant, and they can get up to $200,000 for their school to do energy upgrades in their school. And we only do, we have a limited number of those larger grants, but everybody that participates can get the $10,000. So that's a really good thing. Say again?
How do you set it through the link on the website? How do we get that?
Can you send us the email?
Absolutely. So, this information is available on our energyright.com website as well, but we can also get that information out to you as a way that you can go and sign up. And of course, the teachers have to get their administration on board and sign up. And there is a level of commitment, right? They have to commit throughout the year that they're going to participate and that their students will be involved. But because of that, commitment is really what makes it so valuable, because they get passionate about learning about energy use. So
I just wanted to ask you, I don't know if you know or not, but one of the smallest private schools in Knoxville, we win the Future City, like second in DC. So they win every year Tennessee, and they go to DC every year. And they work like in a project like this, energy and stuff. So my question is, that will include like a project for the students for saving energy And that will go, the grant can go for private school or only public school?
Right now, it's only public schools is what we are trying to target, the public schools. But the private schools can still be a part of the incentives for our small businesses. So I think, one of the things we talked about in business and
Any way
energy.
we can support this school? It's been doing great the last 3 years for energy program and like a future city. I don't know if you have anything like to support this school with it, because like they making Tennessee proud every time go to DC. They just won like a special award in DC like 3 months ago.
I might like to pull that thread a little bit more and see what options we can
Please.
have. But I know currently our school uplift is targeted at public schools, but our business and industry type programs would fit any schools as well. But I may ask you a little bit more about that, so thank you.
All right, I want to be respectful of folks' time, but can I offer if you all will be around for a few moments after the meeting, if there's some follow-up questions or discussion? It sounds like you would welcome that. So some of you have asked both today and also in the past about rack cards, about some programs. So on the table by the door, there are a variety of rack cards, and we printed them with the hope that if there is or topics of interest, please take them and distribute them to folks that you work with. Don't feel limited to one. And if you'd like extra copies, please email Taylor, whose information you have. I also want to recognize our commissioner, Craig Pickett, our newest Board of Commissioner from KUB, snuck in during the discussion, so we're very glad to have you here. Thank you for being part of this. Our next meeting will be on June 6th at 3 o'clock. 4:30. Don Ford will be back. Thank goodness for me. And at this time, I'd like to offer if there are any members of the public who would like to address the panel. All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and move to adjourn. And again, I appreciate everyone's attention, and to our TVA guests, thank you for sharing information with the panel today. We are adjourned.